Hi everyone, good evening. Hope you had a nice day. Uh, we are here for an interesting session. Of course, a problem which all of us would have faced, or we are getting ready to face probably in an interview. Okay, let me go ahead without any further ado. So, this session is persuasion and influence in an interview. So, if you are getting ready to face an interview, of course, you need to make a strong impression when you go for an interview. How would you make an impression? A strong impression, a first impression, maybe. The way you persuade or the way you convince the interviewer makes a lot of difference to how your interview goes well, right? So, this is a session wherein I will introduce you to a few techniques for making a strong impression. Of course, 1 hour for this vast of topic is not enough, so I would just be touching upon a few techniques, and practicing it is left to you. I am reachable on Smarties platform as well. You can just address a question to me and I can probably get back to you. So let's get started. So before we get started, I would just want to take you through the table of contents, what you would be going through today. So a short introduction about myself, then what is the difference between persuasion and influence? There's a thin line, and I hope you all realize that. Understanding the interviewer's perspective, building rapport and trust, the power of storytelling, demonstrating confidence and competence, handling objections and tough questions. So, how do you close an interview with an impact? After that, I would open the session for your questions. Okay, like I told you about me, so I'm Shweta Vishwas. I'm brought up, studied, married, everything in Bangalore. Uh, I have been into HR from the time I exited my college. So I have worked with different companies like Ernst and Young, Suja Industries, and now with Clearly Blue and Adeptic Labs from past 8 years now. So I am right now the Chief People Officer and Career Coach at Clearly Blue and Adeptic Creative Lab. So as you can see, we are on a quest to skill a million, and you could be one in a million, right? So we just want to make you ready, make your employability quotient more, right? So just to start off with, what is the difference between persuasion and influence? There's a thin line between the way you persuade, the way you influence. So let's just go through the definition first. What is it? The process of convincing others to see things from your perspective. So you can say persuasion is an act of convincing someone else to change their beliefs, to change their attitude or behavior through some kind of a reasoning. You have some logical explanation, you have some arguments or some kind of an appeal where you kind of convince the other person. So it always involves a logical argument, or appealing with emotions. It can be a particular action. Through a particular action you convince someone to understand your perspective. So this usually involves clear communication, clear, crisp, and concise communication. You can take as an example a salesperson, right, who usually uses a persuasive language, because that person would have an evidence to convince the customer. They might say that this product is very good because this is the rating we have got on Amazon, or this is the um, the users reviews that we have got, this is the NPS rating that we have got. So this language is usually called as persuasive language. Now, this is persuasion. What is influence? Now, influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone. So, you would have heard in today's generation, right? You would have heard about many social media influencers. Now, what are they doing? if they want to influence you, they are using that product, they are showing it to you that this looks so well and there's a branding done for that. So that kind of influences you, right, to buy that product. Or if someone has some kind of a talent which for a particular especially like a singing or cooking, somebody is doing for their passion and they become a social media influencer, they have lakhs and millions of followers on their social media pages, so that person is called an influencer because that person is influencing you to do something. It's kind of an inspiration for you to do something. So influence is the ability to shape or affect someone's belief, attitudes, or behavior, more often in a very subtle and indirect manner. Persuasion is a direct and clear manner. Now, influence is a very subtle, and they use many social dynamics, engaging in direct communication, or an argument. Right? For this, if I have to give you an example, during election, you would have seen many leaders trying to influence people to vote for their party, or it can be a team leader in your team, who is trying to influence you, who is trying to be an inspiration to all of you, telling that this is the way to work, this is the way to take the company forward. So this is the difference between a persuasion and influence. Now, what is the importance of persuasion and influence in an interview? You might ask, these things help only once you hit the floor, but no. In an interview, how do you use it? Okay, because this will help you to stand out from the crowd. Maybe everyone will not be able to persuade or influence the interviewer, right? We'll get to know how to do that, and then you build a rapport with the interviewer. You might become so close to the interviewer that they might get back to you on a personal network. If you're not selected, they might refer you to somewhere else, some other place. You build a good rapport with them. After that, you demonstrate stability. You are telling the interviewer that you're capable of doing so and so things. You are influencing the interviewer, to for that particular role. So this is the difference between persuasion and influence, right? Moving on, what next? Understanding the interviewer's perspective. So what does an interviewer want from you, right? They would expect that you would have researched about the company and the role that they have advertised for. Because when you go for an interview without knowing the background of the company, you won't be able to align yourselves better to that particular role. So it's always better to do a kind of secondary research on that company, on that particular role. What are the trends? What are the industry trends right now? Just study, a day before or 2 days in advance. When you have been called for an interview, know about the company, whether it's a startup, it's an MNC, what kind of expectation they would have. It will give you a fair idea. So an interviewer would expect you to know about the role and the company. That's one thing. What next? Tailoring your message. How do you tailor your message? You have to align your responses with the company's goals and values. Of course, if you go through any company's website, they would have a vision mission statement, they would have their goals and values. Now, how do you align your skills, your capabilities, and align them to that particular role you've been called for? Like if you're going for an interview, suppose I'm just giving an example of our own company wherein we call people with good content marketing skills for an interview. How would you do a research about our company? Go through our website. Who are our who are there in our management, who would take your interview, who is there in the HR team. Just go through their LinkedIn profile, research about the company, and expect usual questions, the common questions that and you would face in an interview. Tell me about yourself. Why do you think you're the right choice for this role? tailor your messages, prepare well for those common messages. If you go through our Smarties Club social media, you will see a lot of reels wherein we are telling our audience what would be the common questions they would face in an interview and what can be your answers. So just go through that. So tailor your message well before you step into an interview. What next? Empathy. What is empathy? Showing, there's a lot of difference between sympathy and empathy. So showing understanding of the interviewer's challenges and how you can solve them. What is an interviewer's challenge? First, to find the right fit for that particular role. Second, to retain that resource so that this exercise doesn't get repeated again and again. Because repeating the same exercises, like posting a job on a portal, then screening the candidates, calling them for an interview, involves a lot of time and money, and I'm sure no recruiter wants to do that again and again. So they would look for your stability, how far you can stay in that company, how far you fit into that particular role. So first understand the role, often in the role before you go for an interview. This is how you understand this concept from an interviewer's perspective. So what next? Building rapport and trust. So, building rapport and trust. What is this first impression? Okay. So, these icons stand for smile, a firm handshake, and body language. So, your positive body language makes a lot of difference. It shows that you're confident enough, it shows that you're the right fit for that particular role. So, your body language, the way you walk into the cabin, the way you sit, the way you listen, makes a lot of difference. So, all these constitute a positive body language. And then a firm handshake, right? So any professional, right, they would expect a firm handshake. A loose handshake is something which you do it in a casual way. This gives them a lot of messages, right? And then a genuine smile. Have that smile on your face, a very natural smile. Don't try to just bring it on. A very natural smile, which makes a lot of difference to any conversation. You can make it lively by just giving a genuine smile. So these are the first impressions. As soon as you go to the cabin of the interviewer, these are the first impressions that you can make. What next? Next is active listening. Now, the interviewer is explaining to you from their company's perspective what is the role and responsibility of the job description that you've got, of the interview that you have gone for. Okay, and if you don't listen well, what happens is the way you respond might not align with what the interviewer is expecting. Okay, you have to reflect on the interviewer's question and respond thoughtfully. For that, active listening is very important. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is just what you just hear, it doesn't make any sense to you. You're just hearing, right? When maybe a session goes beyond 2 hours or 1.5 hours or something like that, you're not able to concentrate. You're just listening. You're just sitting there and you're just hearing. Sorry. But what is active listening? You're listening to respond in the right way, right? So always have an active listening towards an interviewer. Next one is mirroring. What is mirroring? So mirroring is, I can call it like a subtle imitation of the interviewer's tone. Now, what the interviewer is, expecting from you is that person expecting a very, a soft, subtle kind of an answer from you, or are they expecting a very maybe your tone might have to increase in a few for a few roles, right? So your body language, the way you communicate, the way you build the connection with the interviewer is what we call as mirroring. Now, the power of storytelling. Now, what do you mean by storytelling? Is it just a story that we would have heard in our childhood? Yes, that also might be right. But the way you align that story to the question that the interviewer is asking makes a lot of difference in an interview, right? You might have experienced something like that, something related to that question. You can be open and you can do a short storytelling. There's a this is the power of storytelling, I can say. So how do you do that? Personal stories use experiences that demonstrate your skills and character. So you might want to say, I took a session recently wherein I narrated a story of a girl who went into internship at IASC, then went into Ernst and Young. This was my story. At the end of the story, I told that this is me. I am a restarter myself. So when I'm talking to the restarters, I prefer telling my own story because the skilling that I went through, reskilling, upskilling, all these things, they will be able to relate it very well when I say a story of a restarter. And when I say it is about me, they will be able to relate it in a better way. So that's the power of storytelling. You can get connected with the person who is listening to you very soon, right? So you can demonstrate your skills and character through your personal stories. Just that you have to choose what stories to tell and what not, right? You can use the star method as well. What is star? Star method is situation, task, action, and result. So there is a situation, there is a task that you have to do, there is an action that you have taken, and there is a result from all these things. So what is that? So structure your responses in this way: star, situation, task, action, and result. So you can structure your responses to highlight your problem solving abilities. So there might be a situation wherein the interviewer is asking you, tell me of a situation where you have faced a challenge and you have come out successfully. So you might have to structure your responses in this way. What was the situation? Suppose you were working as an assistant to the marketing head of a company. I'm just giving an example. There might be your own story like this. So there might be a situation wherein you are supposed to go for an interview with your marketing head, and unfortunately marketing head could not make it due to an emergency. So that's a situation. So your marketing head is asking you, do you want to go ahead with the presentation, or do you want me to reschedule a meeting, right? What is the task that you have to do here? So the task is the presentation, right? Are you ready with the task? Are you ready? Have you seen the presentation? You have seen the presentation. You know what your marketing head is going to present. What would be your action? Your action one would be to tell him to reschedule the meeting, wherein you're showing that you're not capable of taking this challenge. But sometimes I agree that you cannot take up a challenge blindly like that, right? But when you know what the presentation is, when you are confident that you can present it, you can take an action and say that no, you don't have to cancel it, I will take care of the presentation. And what was the outcome of that action? Because you took up the challenge, you presented well, you gained a client. So this kind of structuring helps a lot in problem solving questions. It can be about your personal behavior, it can be about problem solving abilities. So all these questions, right, these are very very common questions that you will face in an interview. They can give you a situation and they can tell you what would be your action plan for this, right? So structure your responses always in a star method. It helps the other person to understand it better, right? So what next? Next is relatability. What is relatability? Stories that resonate with the interviewer's needs, right? And roles requirements. Now, what does an interviewer's need? The interviewer's need is your stability. The interviewer's need is your alignment with the role. What is the role and responsibility that you have been asked for? How can you relate it better with some stories? So tell some stories, like why are you a good fit for those, for that particular role. It can be using the star method, it can be using personal stories. So take that relatability quotient, whenever you go for an interview. So, what is next? Next is demonstrating confidence and competence. Competence is become a crucial thing nowadays, because if you're not competent enough when you go for an interview, there is no way that you can make it. You have to be competent. How do you be competent? How are you going to be competent? First, okay, let's go through one by one. First one is demonstrating confidence by body language. What kind of body language? Maintain eye contact, sit up straight, avoid fidgeting. You don't have to, you can move your hands, hand gestures. You can talk, have that eye contact always, sit up straight. And when you lean towards a table and keep your hands like this, they usually get a feel that you're listening actively to them. So maintain that body posture always, right? Voice modulation. What is voice modulation? See, when you're talking in a low tone for for 10, 15 minutes, the other person might lose interest in listening to you. Whereas when you stress a few words, now stress is something where I increased my voice. Okay, I'm modulating it because I'm stressing on a particular word, right? It can be that I was able to face the situation. I took up this challenge, wherein you are stressing on that particular letter I, wherein you are telling that this is my story, this is the way I have faced this challenge. Sometimes this was the challenge that I took up. So you are stressing on the word challenge. So have that voice modulations when you speak, and speak clearly. Don't murmur, or don't keep it, don't swallow the words. Have that the clarity in speech. Then appropriate tone and pace is also very important. When you start speaking very fast, when your words per minute is too much, too high, what happens? The other person doesn't understand what you're talking about, right? Have that moderate pace when you're talking. Have that voice modulation. It makes a lot of difference, and people sitting who are sitting to listen to you, not only in an interview, wherever you want to speak, voice modulation plays a very, very important role in holding the audience, right? What next? Next is the preparedness. What is preparedness? Anticipate questions, have a concise, impactful response ready for that. Okay. So, like I told you, maybe go through some social media posts, go through some. Nowadays, what people do, they go through Insta Reels, right? How to prepare for an interview, what are the common questions you face in an interview. So, go through those reels, you will get to know what are the questions people are usually facing in an interview. Have that preparedness. Prepare well for the interview before you go. So, by demonstrating this kind of confidence and competence, now, competence also includes the way you skill yourself for that particular role. Okay, how ready are you for that particular role? Now, if you anticipate, or if you're thinking about what your future role is going to be, what do you want to become? Suppose you want to become an HR. What do you have to do? You have to work backwards. What courses do you need to complete? What certifications do you need to complete? Who are the experts you can speak to? What is the kind of network you have to involve yourself with? What events you have to attend? Who are the experts? How can you contact them? LinkedIn, build a proper LinkedIn profile. How your resume has to be ready. So all these things you have to work backwards from your goal. So this is something, the preparedness. This is being confident and competent, right? Now, handling objections and tough questions. This is something wherein persuasion and influence also plays a very crucial role with in an interview. Now, all these things that we went through right now, right? You're influencing and you're persuading the interviewer with your point of view. You're telling that person that you have done all these things, you're the right fit. You're kind of influencing the interviewer. Now, handling objections and tough questions. What would happen? There are many companies which have one round called as stress interviews. What will happen in a stress interview, right? Like three or four people are sitting, they are just shooting questions to you and they're not giving time for you to think, right? This is the time for you to stay calm. Stay calm, don't get tensed. You had the first point is to stay calm, don't get defensive, because they are asking so many questions. You don't have to get defensive, you don't have to say no, 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 I've not done this, I've not done this. No, instead view these objections as opportunities for you to clarify and persuade. Use those objections in a right way. You have done this, you have done this, you have not treated this problem in a right way, you have not solved it. You would have gone through a series of assessment, you would have gone through a series of interviews before that. So people will start pointing towards those answers that you have given. They will start telling that no, this is not the right way, this is not the right way. You cannot become offensive or defensive at that point of time. Instead, have a logical explanation for what you have done. Have a logical explanation. If it's a new answer for you, just give it a thought for a second. And how well, that's why preparedness is a very, very critical thing when you go for an interview. Prepare yourself. After all, it's about yourself. Nobody can answer it better than what you can do, right? So have that confidence, have that competent nature that you can answer those questions. Stay calm first. Second one is acknowledge and redirect. What do you mean by acknowledge and redirect? Suppose it's a question for which you don't know what the answer is. Acknowledge that you don't know the answer. It's okay not to know few answers. You cannot know everything, before you hit the workplace, right? There are few things for which you go and learn in a workplace and then gain an experience, right? So recognize the concern, and probably you can pivot the conversation to to what your strengths are, right? You can redirect them. I'm not sure about the answer for this question, but I know this, but I know this. There are a lot of skills which can act as an alternative for many other skills, right? So you can say, I have not done this, so I'm not aware of this, but I have done this, I have a certification in this, I know this, I can answer this. If you can give me an assessment on this, I can answer this. Okay, you are redirecting the question, you are redirecting the interviewer's attention towards your strength. So prepare well for those questions and objections, right? And then provide evidence. That's the next thing. What do you mean by provide evidence? Now, if you're presenting a project in front of the interviewer, use data, use some examples, use some testimonials if you have got to, you're claiming that you know something, so you need to back it up. How are you going to back it up? You're using data, you're using examples, you're using testimonials, or you're using a recommendation that you've got on LinkedIn, that this person has solved this particular challenge well. So that's why LinkedIn, building a proper LinkedIn profile is very important. Now, yesterday itself we had a webinar on building a LinkedIn profile, so you can request for the recording as well. So how do you build a strong LinkedIn profile? You can have your recommendations there, you can have your certifications there. You're backing it up, you're backing up all your claims, whatever you have told that I know all these things, you're backing it up with something. You have data, you have examples. Suppose you're presenting a project, and the result of the project, how are you going to prove it? If you take it to a practical session in your college itself, you would do a particular experiment, or you would do a particular coding, and then you would show the person, the examiner, that this code has led me to this particular result. Or you would answer how this particular code is arrived during a Viva interview. The same thing here. You have to provide an evidence for whatever you have claimed, right? Now, coming to the last part of persuasion and influence, it is closing with an impact. How do you close an interview with an impact? Now you have spoken about yourself, you have introduced the interviewer to your skills, you have influenced the interviewer by telling what all you can do, by telling how well you align with the particular role. So you have done all these things. Now how do you close with an impact? First thing is to summarize your strengths. Okay, what strengths you have quoted directly or indirectly in a subtle way to the interviewer, summarize those things at the end. So this is where you need to practice, you need to tailor your message, right? So you need to close it with an impact, summarize your strength first, recap, give a recap of how your skills and experiences align well with the job requirements. Right. Then the next one is express enthusiasm. Just, if you sit with a pale face there, you're very dull, you're not interested in anything, you're just answering the technical questions. This is what you have learned in the college, you're going to produce the same thing here. No, that won't help. You have to show some enthusiasm. You have to tell the person who is interviewing you that these are the stories that I have told you. Now, what do you want to do? Now, you are genuinely interested in this role. You are telling the interviewer that I align well with the vision and mission statement of your organization, with the goals and values of your organization. How do you want me to proceed? Now, shall I wait for your call? This kind of enthusiasm, this kind of, you have to show interest in that particular interview and company, right? Next one is ask insightful questions. You might have a lot of questions about the roles and responsibilities. You might have so many questions, but you will hesitate to answer, question it to the interviewer. Just because that person is an interviewer, you will hesitate. Just the way you are hesitating to put questions now. So don't hesitate. That's what I want to tell you. The way you demonstrate what you know and what you don't know is the way you ask questions. Okay, you don't know something about the role, you have some doubt, you're showing genuine interest in that particular topic and asking that person, can you please clarify this? Okay, can you please tell me by what time I will get a feedback about my interview? These questions will really help them to understand that you are interested in this particular job. Okay, demonstrate your knowledge of that company and interest. Okay, so tell them that you are interested in this particular organization's growth. You tell me, how can I align myself if suppose you are given the result there itself telling that you are rejected. Don't lose your heart. Okay, just ask question at that point. Very insightful question. Why was I rejected for this particular role? Was it something that there was a skill gap? From what I know, from what you're expecting, is there a skill gap? Do you want me to take a skill gap assessment? Ask some questions like that. Don't leave it at that. So with this particular topic, I'm closing this here. So smarties.club is our platform. You can go through it. We have a lot of webinars coming up. It's a community based learning platform. You can go to the community, address it to at Shweta Vishwas, and the question will come to me. Okay, I'm also reachable on LinkedIn. So please post your questions. Let's keep talking. So when I say think out of the box, what do I mean by this is People who are into technical field, right, the IT sector field, uh, people who are not into IT sector, they start feeling that IT sector field people have more opportunities when compared to us. Okay, that's not the thing. So you can see these courses: cybersecurity, instructional designer, content marketer, drone pilots, no code website, UI UX. UI UX is user interface and user experience. So these are the courses that we have on our Smarties platform. You can skill yourself in these courses as well. Not necessary that you have to be in an IT sector to be placed well and to be paid well. Okay, many other courses I have just listed a few here. There are so many other topics which you might want to skill yourself with, and I'm opening it for questions now. Any questions, please ask me, or any topic suggestions that you would want to give us. We would love to take it. If we don't know the answer for a question interviewer asked while interview, how to deal with it? Okay. You don't know an answer, that's what I was telling. If you don't know any answer, if you don't know the answer for that particular question, Yashaswini, the right thing to do is I'm not sure how this works. I'm not sure what the answer would be for this. Or if you want to give it a thought, something that it which is there in your mind and you're not able to articulate it, just take a minute, pause, think. If you just can give me a minute to think about it, think for a minute. Request, of course any interviewer would give you some time to think about it. Think about it for a minute. If you're still not able to get an answer, you can tell the interviewer, be frank enough to tell that interviewer that I'm not sure of the answer. So whereas I can tell you how this is done. Probably the way you redirect, it depends on you. But what I would suggest is be frank enough to tell the interviewer that you don't know the answer for a particular question. Tell that I'm not able to answer it right now. Probably if you give me some time, I will go through some material and then I can get back to you. I can mail it to you. Something like that you can say, or redirect it to a particular skill that you have gained. I hope that answers your question, Yashaswini.
Shweta, I have a question from my end.
Yes, Neha.
So, for example, I'm interested in a particular job, and but my degree is not suitable to the job. In that case, can I go ahead and apply for the job, and how do I face the interview there?
When they give you a job description, they usually mention that this particular degree, people only need to apply for this. So when usually what happens when they are screening, when they are going through the resumes and they see that this particular graduation or this particular degree was not mentioned in our job description, they usually reject it at the first go. So, what I would suggest is go through the job description in a very detailed manner. See how you can align. Even if they have given a prerequisite that you have to be a BCom degree holder to attend this interview, then there is no point in applying for that. But if they say any degree, then I would say when you're applying, let it go with a cover note saying that this is my degree, this is how I can align well with this particular role. So, if at all the degrees are mentioned, there is no point in applying for that interview for that particular job role. But if they say any degree, then a cover note would really make you stand out from from the crowd, because they usually send their resume and forget it. But what I would suggest is, let it go with a cover note saying that you are so and so person, placed in so and so place, and then this is how you can align well. This is your degree, you can align well with this particular job role. So this is what I suggest. Hope that answers, Sneha. So thanks everyone. Sneha, over to you.
Thanks for the wonderful session, Shweta. Yes.
Thank you.